Welcome back to our COVID-19 mini-series of talks with me, Dr. Kavita Chinayan, and my teacher and guest, Dr. Sumit Kesekar. And in the previous video, we talked a little bit about the global perspective on this virus and this pandemic. And in this one, I'd like to invite Dr. Sumit to talk a little bit about the doshas that he discussed in the previous video, and so that we can have a better understanding of what is to come when we start talking about immunity. So welcome back.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you. So let's talk about doshas. For those of those people who may be watching who are not familiar with this term, could you explain what dosha is and how it's relevant in our current times?
See, for most parts, a lot of people who are a little bit familiar with Ayurveda, they know doshas as body type. I am Vata, I am Pitta, I am Kapha. And this is a set of attributes, physical, mental, spiritual attributes, which make up a person. Like, for example, okay, this has not to be taken very literally, but I'm just giving an example for the sake that somebody says they are unable to lose weight, so they are Kapha type, or they talk too much, they are Vata type. So these are physical attributes. Sometimes people correlate it even lower, like wind is Vata. So you're passing a lot of wind, your Vata is increased. You're having a lot of acid, your Pitta is increased. You have a lot of phlegm, your Kapha is increased. And in a nutshell, it is not wrong. Okay, but when we talk about dosh, on a very cosmic level, they lie at the fundamental principles of how the cosmos was created. And these are forces of nature. And these forces of nature are movement, transformation, and sustenance. Like, for example, I'm talking with you now. So when I'm talking, on a gross level, my voice or word is going somewhere from this medium and hitting somewhere. This movement, any perception of movement is what. So anything that has to move from one place to other, if you see it from a very logical point of view, if anything has to act on anything, it has to have some movement. Even if they are like 1 centimeter or 1 millimeter apart,
right?
They have to move. That movement, that perception of movement is called as Vayu. When two things move or separate, even for separation of movement, wherever there is movement, a new product is transformed. That concept of transformation is understood as Pitta. And when the new product goes through its particular lifespan in an algorithmic way, that stability is understood by Kapha. Like, for example, if we say the moon revolves around the earth, so it is revolving in a very stable orbit, a little bit aberration, but that even aberration is stable, we can calculate it. It is not that tomorrow moon is coming on its will close to you, going far. So this stability is called as Kapha. Then movement, there is a perception of movement, is called as Vata. And because of this movement and stability, whatever transformational changes are happening on our earth, tides are forming, tides are coming, it is understood by Pitta.
Okay.
These concepts from a macro level, we derive it to a micro level. So even in your cell, every time a cell is formed, a cell is born, because see, life for most parts is a orchestra of dead things. Some chemical is going into something and creating something new. If there is a cell, something is interacting with it. So there is motion everywhere. And that motion is understood by Vata. And therefore, the most concept we say, when we go in meditation language, you have heard of the word prana vayu. We say prana. Prana is different from prana vayu. Vayu means, the motion which brings that consciousness within you at the minutest of level. When these two things coalesce together or separate from some other, a transformation is happening. Something new is created, that is called as Pitta. And whatever new is created, like RBCs, they have a specific shell life. It has to go through its particular time. That's under that stability is understood by Kapha.
Okay.
Now, any of these things develop an aberration. Suddenly your RBCs are dying early or remaining more. You being a doctor know that amounts to disease.
Yeah.
If certain kind of thing is created more than is required or less than is required, it's due to disease. But why Vat dosha in Ayurveda is considered the supreme? Because you understand if nothing moves or nothing separates, nothing can be created. It will remain as inert as it is. Even if there is a bacteria inside ice, for a long period of time, nothing is happening. But suddenly, a movement happens. A wind comes, whatever happens, the ice gets melted because of the forces, the bacteria emerges. So nothing can happen in inertia. So that is the reason it is said that this movement is something which is creating the imbalance, which is creating the changes. And these three manifestations, if we can understand in our own homeostasis, in terms of disease, in terms of moral, social behavior, in terms of upbringing, in terms of our work, of how these things are affecting us, we can easily balance it. And therefore, I say that whenever a change occurs on a macro or a micro level, it has to happen through these three concepts of movement, transformation, and stability: origin, sustenance, and destruction.
Okay.
And if you see connected with the coronavirus or any kind of epidemic, you will see something has to move.
Yeah.
Without something moves, nothing is happening.
Right.
The moment it moves in an individual, some reactions are happening and transformation is occurring. Once the transformation occurs, that stability is there, which leads to disease. That transformation could be good or that transformation could be worse. But if there is no movement, nothing is happening. And you can now check it, like when you're doing isolation, when you're doing social distancing, what is happening? You're restricting the movement.
Right.
Once you restrict what, transformation stops.
Correct.
And see, these are the concepts which are algorithmic concepts of way. These are not related to a human perspective. We can imbibe it in us.
Yeah.
From the minutest of level. Like I shake hands with you, or I'm eating too fast. Okay, this is a concept of motion. My motion is fast.
Yeah.
But on a cosmic scale, this is how the homeostasis work. And therefore, three doshas lie at the helm of creation. These are not just some metaphysical or mythical concepts. These are very applicable concepts put in terms which may not relate to because they do not align with modern school of medicine.
Right. But it makes sense, right? Because movement, as you said, is what is involved in the transmission. And once the virus gets into the body, then there is the disease is caused by transformation, and the healing also happens by transformation. And what remains after, which is the antibodies and the immunity that comes out,
or even the damage to the organs.
Yeah. And that is in the realm of structure and stability, which is kapha.
Yeah.
So I think this is so important for us to understand, because as you know, especially in the modern way of looking at Ayurveda, we kind of restrict ourselves to understanding doshas only from the standpoint of body types and what I can eat and what I can't eat. But we kind of lose sight of its broader scope and application, and which could help us learn so much and understand nature and ourselves if we could expand our understanding. So this is hugely helpful.